Welcome to the question of the day. Today's question is from Ash in Canada, and Ash asks, almost be a tongue twister. Ash asks, what does a good sales process look like from start to finish? Good question. That is a loaded, really big question. And I love talking about sales processes. But honestly, I could spend an entire 3 days talking about sales process. And so I'm gonna narrow this down and point you in the right direction is what I'm gonna do. Because my recommendation would really be to just get to a sales class. Like find a reputable sales class, a proven process, go to that class, learn that process and adopt it into the field. Like that would be my recommendation. I mean, that's why sales classes exist and they're typically like 3 days or a week or something like that. Because there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot. And also for me to just rattle off, hey, this is what a good sales process looks like that doesn't give you time to adopt it, to question it, to discuss it, to implement it, to practice it. So like there's a lot there. But go to a sales class, but be careful. There's a lot of sales classes out there. Like go onto your social media right now and just type in like sales classes and things will pop up. But watch then what happens the next day, the next week. Like you're just going to get inundated with ads because there are a lot of guys. I shouldn't say guys, but it is mostly guys, right? That say only they have the answer. They have the keys to the kingdom here. There is a lot of sales masters and MVPs and ninjas, and we'll teach you how to close doors and force your customers into a sale. It might even be God mode, and we'll even teach you how to get six-pack abs while you're closing the sale. Like there's all kinds of sales classes out there. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to claim that I have all the answers, but I can show you how to get the answers. I'm going to give you 3 ways to get a process, 3 different ways you could define a process. And I'm going to give you 4 factors that you want to consider as you are defining that process of what a good sales call looks like from beginning to end. So here's the 3 ways that you can get a process. And I'm going to define this like a bike model. I'm going to compare this to riding a bike because I think all of us, most of us know how to ride a bike. And we all went through that learning experience. So the first way to get a process is to use an existing process. Use one that somebody else has already done. And odds are, I mean, sales has been around for thousands of years. Like almost all of humankind has experienced sales. I mean, going back to the first guy that sold the first goat to somebody else, like there's sales. Somebody's already done it. Somebody's already figured it out, and you can copy it because there's an existing model out there. You want to find one that is existing that has proven results, though. So thousands of companies just like you have done it and found success. So not just like one dude that says he got it all figured out and it works for him, but it's scalable because thousands of other companies are doing it and seeing results doing it. So find something proven that exists already. Now, when a company uses an existing model, I do see a high rate of success when they follow that proven model. Because those proven models, it works, but it only works if you're doing it exactly the way that it's supposed to be done. It's like riding a bike. There's really only one way to ride a bike. You sit on the seat, you hold the handlebars, and you pedal the pedals, and you balance, right? Like there's really not a lot of different ways to ride a bike. That's the proven model that thousands have had success with. Now, there's different ways to get there, right? Like you could use a glider bike. That's what my kids did. That didn't exist when I was a kid, but there was a glider bike. You could use training wheels. That was my model. You could have a family member push and hold. They all work. You'll all end up executing that process of riding a bike. You just got to pick one and go with it. Same thing with the existing model. Find an existing model, something that's proven. Thousands of companies have had a high rate of success, and then just follow that model. Just do it. Second way to get a process is find an existing process, but modify it to yourself. I'll be honest, I don't see a lot of success when companies choose a proven process, but then modify it for themselves. I do see a lot of companies do this though. They pick the proven process and then they're like, well, we pick the things that work and then we, do the things that fit us better, right? Like, because here's what usually happens. Usually we're modifying the pieces that make us uncomfortable. So the process works, but we just haven't been doing it. So it's new to us. It makes us uncomfortable. And then we give up on those pieces because it makes us uncomfortable rather than embracing them and making that our process. This would be like the training wheels on a glider bike that my son did when he was learning how to ride bike. So we had a glider bike for my daughter and she figured out how to ride bike very quickly. And then my son inherited the glider bike and it scared him though. Like he couldn't get to the part where he would actually pedal and it made him feel real uncomfortable. But then he saw somebody else had training wheels on their bike. So he wanted training wheels on his glider bike, which those two things aren't supposed to go together. They're two different models. And honestly, like I just got tired of fighting with him. So I did. I finally threw the training wheels on this glider bike. I had to bend them and stuff to make them fit. But so he's riding around on this glider bike with training wheels because the training wheels wouldn't let him fall over. So he wasn't embracing the part that made him uncomfortable. But eventually, he would see his friends out pedaling bike as he'd get a little older and he realized he didn't want to have those training wheels on anymore. So I took them off and he figured it out like that. Like he finally embraced that uncomfortable piece. He pushed through it. And now the kid is buzzing up and down the sidewalks all the time. So I don't see a lot of success when we pick an existing model and modify it. That's like us saying, well, yeah, there's a lot of success there, but I know better. And then we modify it. And usually we don't. We're just not embracing the suck, right? We're not pushing through it. The third way that you can get a process is create it yourself. And it could be really good. It could be fantastic. Might fit perfect. Might have a lot of success, but it's also going to take a lot of time. A lot of time. There's only one way to ride a bike, like I said. You could invent a new way to ride a bike. You could invent a new bike. Odds are low that you'll invent a new way and it'll be successful and you'll make money off it and it'll become the new thing. Odds are low, but eventually, sometimes there are breakthroughs too. Like when I was a kid, there were no glider bikes. It was either you use the training wheels or you had a family member push you, right? Like those were the two ways. And then somebody invented this glider bike and it's wildly successful now, right? So sometimes, but that's like one person out of millions of people that created this new way. So it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort. Could be really good, but odds are really low. But you could create your own process. So either pick an existing process that works, pick an existing one and modify it to yourself, which I don't recommend, or create your own, which again, I don't recommend that one. All right, so now let's get into the 4 factors. What are the 4 factors you need to consider when adopting a process, when selecting a process? So those 4 factors, I'll rattle them off and then we'll go through them here. The 4 factors are pick one that has proven results, pick one based on time, how quickly you can implement it, pick one based on fit, and then pick one based on adoption into the field. So let me go into each of those, right? So the first one, proven results. I spend a lot of my time with companies in the field, with their salespeople in the field, with the actual companies, and I'm constantly riding along and working with salespeople. I have the luxury that I do get to see the companies that have the most success, the highest closing percentages, the highest average sale, the highest profit margins. And I get to see the commonalities that all of those have, those companies. So these high performing companies, there's certain things that all of them do And that becomes like that proven process. And now the great thing is AI has helped a lot with this because years ago, you go back 15 years ago when I was coaching people, I would tell them like follow the process, it'll equal results. But like there wasn't much way I could show them other than like another company, right? But now with AI, like you have AI that records sales calls, compares it against the process, but then also gives you data where you can look at where process adherence, companies that are following this process and have a higher adherence to that process get higher results, right? And lower adherence equals lower results. Uh, Even things like talk time, right? Like I can see salespeople that talk more, if they're talking like 70% of the time, have a lower closing rate than salespeople that talk like 50% of the time. More balanced conversation. Time on your process, right? So if we're talking about like the trades, we're talking about a 1 to 2 hour call here. If you're spending that 1 to 2 hours in the home executing the process, you have a higher closing percentage than if you're just spending 20, 30 minutes with a customer. You have a lower closing percentage. So like AI is great because it proves all these things that we already knew, but it all ties back to have a proven process or proven results. So this process equals results, and it's proven that if I do this process, the higher adherence I have, the better my results are going to be. So we need proven results. The second factor you need to consider, time. How much time do you have? I don't know about your company, but most companies need results now. If you're starting a company, you need to turn a profit very quickly just to stay alive, just to put food on the table. And even companies that have been around for a while, like you need to be a profitable company or you're laying people off. There's people that are you're responsible to their livelihoods, their families, and so we need a profit. Read the E-Myth or the E-Myth for HVAC. Like these are great examples that'll dive into how hard it is to start a business and you need results quickly. And even at the individual level, most salespeople need results now. I don't know how long I could go without a paycheck before it would start affecting our lives. And I think most people are in that same boat there where we need results now. We don't have a lot of time to figure this out. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel. It's kind of like working out, right? Like I don't want to spend years figuring out my own workout routine. I want to get fit now, I want to lose weight now. Somebody else has already figured it out, so I'm not going to waste the time doing it. So time, consider how much time do you have? Third, fit. Now, I want to be careful with fit when I'm talking about fit. So, when you're picking a process, find one that fits. And here's what I mean by fit, there's a difference between being uncomfortable and being immoral. Okay. Uncomfortable is okay, immoral is not okay. When I created the Objection Boot Camp, I was working in the automotive industry, and the whole focus for the Objection Boot Camp was we wanted a respectful way to overcome objections because there was a lot of ways to overcome objections, but all of you know the auto industry doesn't have a good reputation for how it treats customers. And that's because the process before that was beat them over the head until they buy something, be very aggressive. And so we wanted to find a more respectful way to achieve the same results, have happy customers that are going to come back to us, and not be aggressive and lean into that bad auto industry name. In fact, there was one company, I didn't work with this company specifically, but I worked with somebody that came from that company. I trained them when they came to our company, and they said the auto company they had just left, they were told that when a customer leaves, they have to leave one of two ways. They either have to leave with a car or they have to leave upset. Like, what a horrible way to treat your customers. We're going to be so aggressive that they are going to leave with a car or they're going to leave upset. So that's an example of immoral. I wouldn't want to adopt a process that is immoral and treats my customers like that. But now, an example of being uncomfortable, we all know and studies prove setting a visual agenda benefits our customers. Yet a lot of salespeople lean away from that one because it's all in our head. In our heads, we think, oh, this is weird. We're going to look weird. Our customers, but it's not true. It's all in our heads. There's nothing immoral about it. You just have to get over it, be uncomfortable until it is comfortable. So you have to evaluate the fit. And fit means uncomfortable or immoral. Avoid things that are immoral, embrace the ones that are uncomfortable. You can make those comfortable. The fourth factor to consider is the adoption. Can you adopt this into the field? Like, is it physically possible to adopt this into the field? And it comes down to a couple of things. Like, do you have the people? And your like head count, one, like, do I have the people physically that can do this? But two, do they have the capacity to do this? Do they have the skills? Are they open-minded enough to adopt this into the field? I don't want to spend a bunch of money on a process that my people are going to throw under the bus right away and it's not going to work. I want a team that is open-minded to trying something different, embracing that uncomfortableness to make sure it works. Even myself, I've been training and coaching sales for almost 2 decades already. And a few years ago, I went to a training class. And a lot of that stuff, like I've seen it already, right? Like I do it, I believe in it, I train and coach it myself. But there was this one piece of the process that stood out to me that I didn't do it that way. In fact, I didn't train it that way. It was completely different than the way I did it. And it really didn't sit well with me when I saw it in that class. And I even left the class and I called a bunch of colleagues of mine. I was like, can you believe they do it this way? Like, what do you think of that? Right. And I started getting their thoughts on it. Right. But then I stayed open-minded enough and I kept riding along with companies in the field and I would see them doing this piece of the process. And it began to shift my thinking. I started to see, oh my goodness, this does work. It's not the way I've always done it, but this works and it works really well. And now I've adopted that as part of my process, right? That's an example of being open-minded. I'm not saying you got to follow this blindly, but you at least have to be open-minded enough to give it a chance. So you have to physically have the people that can adopt this into the field, have people that have the skills to adopt it into the field, but are also open-minded that they're going to embrace this and adopt it into the field. And it may put you in a position where you have to evaluate your team. I'm not advocating you fire your team or fire anybody, but don't give up on a proven process because you've got the wrong people on your team. There was one company a while back that I worked with and they had a data entry tool, and it was a very complicated process. Like I had trouble figuring this out, and there's all these like workarounds to it. And to me, it seemed really simple. I was like, well, why couldn't you, I don't know a lot about IT, but why couldn't you just click here and then have like a toggle down that you pick the number, right? Like, why don't you just let the people entering adjust the number rather than having it set in stone? And this is the reason I was told. I was told that you couldn't toggle it because it used to be that way, and employees were fudging the numbers that they would enter in. They were fudging the numbers. And essentially, this led to losses for the company. Basically, they were stealing. They would fudge the numbers and steal. And so rather than using a proven process, a proven tool in managing our people, we decided we would replace it with a more complicated tool with these workarounds because we couldn't manage our people. So I mean, I would ask you listening, like, what makes more sense? Would it make more sense to replace a proven process with an inferior process because our people are fudging the numbers, or coach, train, manage, or find people that won't lie and use the process that works? I mean, what would make sense to you? But adoption has to be adopted into the field. So, I mean, those are the 4 factors you have to consider when picking out a process: the proven results, the time it takes to do it, does it fit morally, and can I adopt this into the field? And so here's my recommendation. Pick the process that works. Adopt it into the field and enjoy the results. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. There's existing processes out there. Find those existing processes that have those proven results that you can implement quickly, that you will have quick results, and that your team will be able to adopt into the field. And if you need help picking that out, reach out to me. I'd be happy to jump on a call or a conversation with you and point you in the right direction. So that's today's question of the day. If you're enjoying question of the day, follow, share, give a rating. Question of the day is on major streaming platforms. If you have a question, reach out to me either on social media or email. Both are going to be listed in the show description. Let's get it answered. Or if you're a Nexstar member, schedule a call with me and let's address your situation one-on-one. Let's get very specific to your needs. I'm Coach Chris. We'll see you tomorrow.